Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of Miss Jody's Musical Minutes. I'm your host, Miss Jody. Let's begin with our lesson for today. If we're going to understand what all the parts of a piece of music are, then we need to start with the basic structure on which everything else is constructed or built. Let's take a look.
Gotta get the framework done. I got some framework done on this one, but the second build next door. Yeah, we gotta get the framework. We got the basement dug, but I gotta get the rafters up, and they're supposed to be coming tomorrow. Yeah, that's the only way we can get started on this project, is if we get that framework completed. This one's looking pretty good right now. Aye, yeah, we'll get back with you later. Okay, bye-bye.
So when we talk about the beginning of making a piece of music, it's kind of like when you're building a house. We have to start with the basic framework. Once you get the basic framework, you know the footprint of your house and the shape of it and what space it's going to take up. In music, we start with the blank 5 lines on the page. Those are called the staff lines, and these are called staff. If there's more than one, it's called staves. That's a little tidbit for you. Now, the full piece of music looks like this. If we take away all the stuff on that page and just leave the lines, it looks like this. So that's where this comes in. We have 2 different sets of lines here. This is called the treble clef. You can see the treble clef right over here, and that holds the notes that are the higher notes. Now, there are certain instruments that just read the treble clef lines, and that's instruments like the flute and the trumpet and the clarinet and the oboe, and those instruments are typically always playing on the treble clef lines, and we're reading those set of notes. When we have this clef, this is called the bass clef, and we read notes that are lower, such as for the tuba or the string bass. Now, you can see that they're together. This is called a grand staff, and a grand staff is usually what composers will be writing on because they would have all the notes of the orchestra together, and then once they've written the composition, they break them apart into our individual sections. So on this grand staff, the place where you find that the most is in piano music. So when we talk about the grand staff, you'll see that there's 5 lines here and there's 5 lines here. Now, there's always 5 lines. There's never 4, there's never 6. It's always 5. If I wrote this note in the middle, which is right here, that note is called middle C, and I'm going to label it a C for you. Now, what's interesting is that this note is a C for the treble clef. It's also a C for the bass clef. That's where the 2 clefs interchange. Now, when we split them apart, we can use extending lines, which are kind of like an extension ladder, to expand those lines so that we can go higher than these 5 lines or lower than these 5 lines. Or on the bass clef, higher than those 5 lines or lower than these 5 lines, so that we can use even more notes.
Yeah, listen, I got this order here delivered, but you guys got it all wrong. Yeah, so I ordered 5-line staff and 5-line staff, but I got these boxes here, and I'm looking at the shipment order, and the packing list says it, but that's not what I got in front of me. I got a 4-line staff and a 6-line staff. That ain't gonna work at all. I can't make that work. And it's supposed to include the ledger lines too. Now listen, I gotta have my ledger lines or I can't complete this concerto, you know what I'm saying? The concerto can't be done. I got a deadline, people, and I got a shipment that ain't working. Who's gonna make it right? That's what I want to know. All right, you're putting me way behind, pal. All right, let's get this worked out.
Now, these lines right here take up about as many notes as the ones that are colored on my keyboard right here. So that's about how many notes we can put on the lines that are already there. But you can see there's a lot more notes on my keyboard that I would need to use and have available, which is again why we use our extension letters, our ledger lines. So that's what the ledger lines look like as we read them off of our music. Just so you know, that particular piece of music is the music that I read while I play the piccolo. I would like to tell you that most of the music I play has ledger lines because this little guy wants to be sailing up in the rafters all the time. So this little piece of music right here, every note in that particular solo has ledger lines. We like to play way high. So in music, we start with the treble clef, the bass clef, and the staff. And again, this is called the grand staff because it's got both treble and bass clef. There's some other clefs which occur in a lot of string music or bassoon music, and those are called alto clefs, and they have different places, and so they make the names of the notes a little bit different. But when we talk about these, we know that these lines are the every good boy does fine lines, and the face, F-A-C-E, goes in the spaces. So for the bass clef lines, the notes are G, B, D, F, and A. Good boys do fine always. And the spaces are A, C, E, G. And that is for just the bass clef. Now if you're not aware, in music, the letters of the alphabet that we use are just A through G. When we have the note A and then move to the next A, the distance between there is called an octave. And what happens in music is when we have the first A, it's at a certain frequency. When we double that frequency, we reach the next A. And that's how they come up with the octave, which is when we start those notes all over again. So our notes have all different locations on these lines, and that tells us musicians exactly which notes to play and when. So when we start constructing our brand new piece of music, this is where all the magic starts, and that's where every piece of music starts. We don't use any other kind of writing tool. We just use 5 lines, and that's where we create all the music that happens. Thanks so much for joining me, and I hope that I've taught you at least one new thing today. I will leave you with a quote from Socrates: "Wisdom begins in wonder." Tune in next time as we continue our musical journey together.